In this session, we will create the first tooth on the cutter. We'll do this by first creating a new datum plane on which we will sketch the profile of the tooth and then extrude this profile as a solid protrusion. We will define the new datum plane to be at an offset distance from the current right datum plane by first clicking on the Datum Plane Tool icon. Next, we'll click on the right datum plane. Notice in the new window that the default constraint type is listed as offset. Since this is OK, we will now set the offset translation amount to be 8 and then click on the OK button. Our next step is to sketch the profile of the tooth on this new DTM2 plane. We will start this process by clicking on the Extrude tool icon. And then click on Placement and Define. Next, we will click on the new DTM2 datum plane to specify it to be our sketching plane. And then we'll make sure that the top datum plane is our reference plane and the orientation is also set to top before we click on the Sketch button. To make it easier to work in Sketcher, we will change the display type to Hidden Line and then turn off the display of the datum planes. We will now rotate the model and click on both sides of our part to specify them as references. And then we will select the front datum plane in the References window and delete it as one of the references before we close this window. We'll now return the display to its prior orientation by clicking on the icon shown here. We'll now select the line icon and draw the profile of the tooth with a series of 4 lines, and then click the middle mouse button to stop the process of drawing lines. Our design intent is for the tooth to extend out from both sides of the disc an equal amount. In order to reflect this intent, we must first add dimensions so that each side of the tooth is dimensioned to the corresponding side of the disc. We will now modify the dimensions to their correct values. Now, in order to implement our design intent, we will add a relationship by first selecting the pull-down menu options, Info, Switch Dimensions. Now we'll double-click on the overhang dimension on the left side of the tooth, and then key in the SD5 symbolic dimension that is shown for the right overhang dimension. Notice the prompt at the bottom of the screen is asking us if we want to add the relationship that will make these two overhang values equal. Since this is what we want, we will click on the Yes button. We'll now test the relationship before leaving Sketcher by switching back to numeric dimensions and then modifying the overhang dimension to 2 units. As you can see, both sides of the tooth were modified by an equal amount. We will now change the dimension back to 1.5 before leaving Sketcher, which we will do by selecting the Continue icon. We'll now select the specified depth option and then key in a depth of 2. In order to finish our protrusion, we will now select the Verify icon and then accept our new feature. We'll now turn on the display of the datum planes. The next feature that we will add is a hole that will be placed on the DTM2 datum plane. We'll start by clicking on the Hole tool icon, and then click on the DTM2 datum plane in order to define it as our placement plane. We'll now use the drag handles to dimension the hole from the top and front datum planes. and then click on the Placement tab in the dashboard and set both of these dimensions to 0. Next, we'll set the diameter of the hole to 1 unit. And then click on the Shape tab in the dashboard and set both the side 1 and the side 2 depths to extend to the next surface. To finish the hole, we will now verify and accept the new feature.